Hello, this is Bill Hitchcock, and we're just going to be demonstrating some examples from Chapter 6. This is the What If Analysis chapter, and we're going to start out on this one with Part 1, where we look at goal seek. I've got the file from this chapter downloaded. It's got a number of different sheets. We're going to be focusing in on this first one. It's the mortgage sheet. And on this spreadsheet, we've got an input area. We have a number of input variables. So the cost of the home, the down payment, the APR, the annual percentage rate, the number of years of the loan, and the payments per year. And then after that, we've got our output area, and we want to find out how to calculate out things like how much money we're going to be borrowing. In other words, the amount of my loan, the periodic interest rate, the number of payments, the total number of payments that we'll be making, and so on. And it's already got some calculations in there, but what we want to do first is we want to use range names on all of these cells. So what I'm going to do is I want to take the name cost of home and assign it to this cell, which is actually cell B2, and you can see that up in the name box. So there's a couple ways to create range names. One is you can just click right up in the name box and type it in. I could type in cost of home, and it will rename that cell as the cost of home. So that's one approach that I can do. Another way that I can do it is I can highlight all these labels and then assign them to the cells right next to it. But before I do that, I'm going to clean up some of the labels here. This one, it's got a period in it. It's got the number of years of the loan. Let's just make it years borrowed. And we've got the payments a year. That one's fine. Amount of loan. Periodic rate, that'll be all right. That's just the APR divided by however many payments per year we've got. This one, we'll call this the total payments rather than num periodic payments. Monthly payment, we're going to change that one because it's not necessarily monthly, although normally it is. We're going to call this the periodic payment. We've got the total to repay the loan and the total interest paid. So all of that looks good. So just a few name changes that we'll make. All right, I'm going to save my work. And I'm going to start giving these range names. So I'm going to highlight all these cells, click upon formulas, go to the defined names group, and create from selection. And I'll choose left column. So we've got that done first. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit to make that a little bit easier for you to see. Let's zoom in just a bit more. That should work. All right, we'll do the same thing down here for the output area. Highlight these cells, click on the formulas tab, in the defined name group, here's create from selection, and it's choosing the left column. It's saying take these labels in my left column, assign them to the ones in the right column in cell A9 to B9 and so on. Hit OK. And now if you click on some of those cells, here's the cost of the home, and if you look up in the name box, it's got cost underscore of underscore home. And I can click on the drop down arrow. There's all my different range names that I've got in here. So if I wonder where's the periodic rate, I'll click on that cell and it takes me right to the cell that is named periodic rate. So these numbers up at the top, they're all input values. So this is 150,000. If I change it to 160, everything else changes. All right. So we've just got some values typed in there. I'm going to undo that. Here we've typed in 10,000, we've typed in 4%, we typed in 30 years, we've typed in 12 payments per year, in other words, monthly. So for my amount of the loan, it says it's B2, the cost of the home, minus the down payment. So if I would type in that formula, retype it, I'll type in an equal sign. It gives me down on the status bar, it says that it's in enter mode. So now I'm going to point using my arrow key or my arrow buttons on my keyboard. Point up to cell B2 and notice on the formula bar it says cost of home. So I'll subtract, type in a minus, the down payment, cursor up to that cell, cost of home minus down payment, hit enter, and we should still get 140,000, 150 minus 10,000. So I'll do that for the rest of my formulas. The periodic rate, for instance, is going to be the 4%, the APR, divided by the payments per year. Total payments is equal to 30 years borrowed times 12 payments per year. That's where the 360 came from. The periodic payment, we can use the equal payment function. That's my rate. In this case, it's the periodic rate, so I'll point up to the periodic rate, type in a comma. NPER is the number of periods, so that's my total payments. Type in a comma. The PV is the present value. How much money are you going to borrow? What's it presently worth? And in this case, I want to enter this as a negative amount because I'm borrowing the money, so I'll type in a minus sign and point up to the amount of the loan. Type in a comma. The future value for most home loans and auto loans, etc., normally there's no set future value on it, so we type in a 0. And finally, if we're going to be paying this, making our payments at the beginning of the month or the end of the month, normally it's always at the end of the period or end of the month. I'll type in a 0 there, type in a parenthesis, hit enter, and there I've got my $668 per month that we'll be paying this. So the total to repay the loan is simply the fact that I'm going to be making 360 payments times the periodic payment. So I'll be paying back a total of $240,000 and some change just to borrow $140,000. Now keep in mind, this is over 30 years, so I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but with inflation and everything else, it's not always the worst case. And then my total interest paid is going to equal the total paid, the total that we had to repay the loan, the $240,000, minus whatever you borrowed in the first place. So of that, it's $100,000 that gets paid out in interest over the life of the loan, over the 30 years. So that's the setup for the spreadsheet. And now we want to try some what if analysis. So for instance, I might look at this periodic payment and say, I think I can actually get a nicer home than this. I think I can afford a $1,000 payment. So I want to start guessing if I've got $10,000 to put down, could I afford to buy a $200,000 home? So I could type in 200, 1, 2, 3, hit enter, and I'm getting close. I'm up to $907. So let's see, I said my budget is 1,000, so let's try, I don't know, 250,000 and hit enter. And there I find out, over my budget, 1,145. So I know it's going to be someplace in between 250,000 and 200,000. So let's guess 225,000. And I'm getting close, but I'm still $26 over budget. All right, so that's what we call kind of the brute force method, where you just start making a bunch of guesses. So Excel can help you with that. So what I'll do is I'm going to go up to the data command, choose what if analysis, and there's 3 types of what if analysis. There's the scenario manager, the goal seek, and data tables. Eventually we're going to do all 3 of these, but for this video clip we're just going to do goal seek. So I'm going to set goal seek, and it says, well, what is it that we're trying to do? Well, the cell that I want to set is, I want to set my periodic payment, cell B12, to a specific value, $1,000. And I'm going to do that by changing the cost of my home. Hit OK. And it does all that, guess this number, guess that number, and keeps on doing it until it comes out with an exact amount of $219,461. There's my periodic payment. It's exactly $1,000, and it worked. So let's save this. That seemed to work all right. Let's try it again with something else. Say for instance that our down payment is I can afford or I can pay $25,000 down. And for my periodic payment this time, I think I can afford I don't know, $1,200 payment. So we'll do the same kind of process. First, brute force. Obviously, I can afford a more expensive house than $219,000. I've only got $928. So let's just try a bigger number, $300,000, and see how close we get to $1,200 down here for my periodic payment. And I'm a little bit over, 1312. So 300,000 isn't going to cut it. Let's try 250. And oops, sorry about that. I typed in 25,000. 250. 1, 2, 3. And we borrow 225. I'm at 1174. So it's someplace in between 300,000 and 250,000. So we could try 275, cut it in half, see where we're at, and we're getting really close to $1,200. So it doesn't take us all that long to kind of guess, but let's get the exact number. Go to what if analysis, goal seek, set this cell B12 to my $1,200, and we'll change the cost of the home, hit OK, and there's my answer. There's $1,200. It turned out it was $276,000, and we can do all sorts of different approaches like that. That's goal seek. Give it a try. You can use any of these input variables to kind of change things, but typically this would be the one as you just want to find out how much home could we buy, depending on you know what your down payment's going to be, you know what your monthly budget is going to be for your periodic payments, and you can do things like that. So that's the end of this clip. Next we'll come back and do some 1 variable and 2 variable data tables and see how this works out.